Welcome back, everybody, to Creative Moment, Season 6, Episode 10. The season finale, 6 seasons fully completed when we get done recording with this one. Dante Bullhauer, Jamie Bullhauer, we've been the co-host the whole time, so let's not waste any time. That was nice.
That's nice.
Okay, today we are...
What? Oh, no, go ahead. Yep.
You
No, go ahead.
I always do it.
I know.
I have to carry the load of this podcast the whole time. Whatever. Today we're talking plagiarism, the line, the gray, maybe black and white, but probably gray line between giving credit to artists, where you kind of see, okay, is this too carbon copy of someone else's work? Is this different enough? Like that whole kind of realm.
And also because photography has its unique. So let's start with a story. So wore my Prince thing. So I've been driving a lot. Driving home, and Diamonds and Pearls came on.
No, it was the worst song of the time.
Anyway, so there's a part in the song where they spell out diamonds, D to the I to the... Okay. And all of a sudden it sparked an idea for a poem. Okay, so I'm sitting there, oh my gosh, you should see what voice to text did with this idea, of me spelling out words and stuff like that. But it sparked an idea. Now, that technique, like in hip hop and other things, RESP, yeah. Okay, people have done that, all right? So I was just sitting there and I'm all like, the muse hit me because of that song. Now, I am not plagiarizing. I am not doing anything. I'm not even, within that regard. My poem is going to be original. It just was sparked by a technique. You got some hard questions coming in that regard of technique and stuff like that. But as a poet, I'm sitting there. We actually have a poetic form called the golden shovel, which however long your poem is based off of how much you take from another work. And those are, as you read the end of the stanzas or the lines, is the line or the verse or whatever that you take from somebody else. Now, we do, under the title of our poem, you're supposed to put like after the work of like Langston Hughes or something like that. So we try to give credit. Okay, so again, but we take that and we use it directly in there, but we do give credit. In the writing world also, there is a technique to strengthen skills and stuff like that, and we've mentioned this before, and I don't remember what episode, but to just actually copy text from people that you respect and want to know about, to kind of feel how their sentence structure is or their word choice, and actually verbatim then like actually write that. Now, you don't go and sell that at all, but we have within this moment, and obviously I was thinking afterwards, I was inspired by a technique directly from a song. Now, that technique is used in other songs. We actually have poetic form, the golden shovel, which is taking somebody's work and infusing it into ours. And we have a technique to learn, and you don't go sell it, but you copy so that you learn their style, to help you find yours too. Things along that line. And so the idea just got me thinking, because I knew we were going to have to record this, quickly after this trip, and it just really got me thinking. So I'm going to hit you right away.
Okay,
because you've mentioned this in the podcast stuff, to where you go on Instagram or you see other people's stuff, and I remember you doing and sharing during state basketball that technique of making people move on the court, which was inspired.
Shout out Gage.
Yeah.
Dushan. Probably butchered that.
Yeah. So that's a technique. But, like I was saying, so it was interesting as I thought about some of the things you talked about. where's the line? What is plagiarism? When should you give credit? Is technique plagiarism? Is a certain set you have filters and stuff, in Photoshop? I don't know.
So this is where it gets gray between like your technique is not IP. It's not intellectual property. There are, and so I don't necessarily feel like I didn't feel the need to credit him making that because it's not like...
But you kind of did because you shared his original.
Sure, but I didn't feel like I needed to credit him. I just kind of wanted to.
Okay, yeah, all right.
I wouldn't have felt bad if I would have just said, tried a new technique today. It's weird because I've mentioned this video before, but Jamie Windsor has a video, your ideas aren't original or whatever.
Oh, I mean, I can agree with that.
Yeah, and so when you discover a new technique and you try it, if you say, no, I just learned this on my own, sure, maybe that's insincere, but I still don't necessarily think that in itself is plagiarism. And that's where it's weird with creativity because everybody can claim without really any concrete like proof or evidence, they can claim, I just did this. I didn't know you did the same thing or this, that, the other, whatever. And Jamie talks about that in the video of like there's that photo of the like floating balls and stuff, and they actually won the plagiarism suit because of like the placement of the balls instead of just like the idea in itself was not intellectual property. And so that's where I kind of meld this into, I think it's a lot more apparent in graphic design because your compositions can be very, very similar. And if you're using maybe the same sports player, the same kind of, it looks pretty identical. I lean a little more towards you should probably at least credit them for the idea versus, oh, that's just my idea. I just thought of this, whatever, or I was inspired by this. Like when I make a graphic, I will go on Pinterest and find ideas that I like and implement sections of those. And some, like early on, some of them were pretty similar. I mean, I was still just trying to understand, kind of like you said, the writing, the direct lines from the poet to see how they operated. Mine would be pretty similar, obviously different athletes, colors, that whole thing, but they'd be pretty similar. Now I just take specific elements that I already kind of know the techniques of how to achieve them, but I like the way they portrayed it in the graphic, and then I put those in versus, oh, I love this composition layout, graphical elements, I'm just going to kind of copy and paste with my own players or people or subjects. It's very gray. Everybody can claim, no, I didn't know you did this, right? Like, yeah. And I don't know, like, in a specifically legal sense, I don't know how you ever win that battle, to be honest.
Well, and even talk about graphic design and stuff, but and it filters into lots of. That's why I was like, you gave my 3 examples at least within poetry and stuff, and in music we know that people sample. Okay, and then I had to laugh. I was driving. I was thinking about Vanilla Ice when he had his big, issue with the beat of pressure.
Yeah, so that's like the exact same thing. And
no, he said his one. I mean, it would just. There's an interview. I
always think it's gonna play Pressure on the radio because I like that song. I don't really like the Ice Ice Baby song.
I know.
And then it just ice.
But he was trying to defend that. No, I was inspired and I changed one element. And like obviously I'm not a graphic designer, and I use like Canva, for my blog headers and stuff. And they have the even the preset blog thing banners that if you pay for it, then you get to use it. But I'm sitting there going, well, I could actually do that. I mean, I would have to put the work, but we've talked about the importance of the creative, of our value is the work we put in. Okay, so somebody designed that, got the layers correct and the, circle behind it. But I could probably do something similar to that. So where if I look at that and then I make my own, that's kind of the same, but I just put in the work and I kind of like the vibe and stuff. See, that's where I think it does get really kind of gray.
Yeah.
Because it's hard, even in poetry and stuff. I mean, you know how many love songs and love poems there are in the world? Like,
Yeah.
you know, somebody's
just
going to write something close to what you've written, even though you thought of it, just because heartache kind of is a universal feeling. Now we all interpret, but yet there's no way that I don't write a line or two that somebody else doesn't just naturally, also because they feel that emotion.
So, I'll put an example out there every time I got what I would consider plagiarized to a lesser value. So I made a graphic for this kid. He became the all-time leading scorer at his school.
Yep.
And I had like these 3D numbers, and it went from like the last digit went from like, you know, the tied record. It was like 1419, whatever. So it was 1418, and the 8 was like sliding down, kind of like a slot machine, and the 9 was coming in. And so that's how and I was like all-time leading scorer, whatever. And he was just sitting there getting ready to shoot a free throw. A month later, maybe a year later, I see a graphic.
You're getting old.
Yes. I see a poster for another school, all-time leading scorer. Not to shame the designer. It was like Great Value Dante, right? Like I don't know if they used Photoshop or what, but they didn't have as much experience as I did. So it's the dude. It was the other dude. Same exact stance. They tried to do the number thing, but it was 2D. They tried to do kind of the same texture. Yeah. It was the same it was the same all-time on one line leading scorer in school history on the other line. The like boxes that's the exact same. And at first I was mad because I'm like, okay, come on. That you clearly saw it and just did the exact same thing. But then I kind of shifted, not right, it was like a week later. I'm like, you know, it's actually kind of a compliment when people want to steal your ideas. And and there's really nothing you can ever do about it when you publish your work. Like, it's just going to happen. And so rather than me, I was bitter for a little bit, actually. I was like, you shouldn't get credit for that. But it is endearing, I guess, to have people say, wow, I really like what they did. I want to do that.
So the hard part is, and that the line, and we won't get to a definite answer about that, but the line is, what is plagiarism? What is creativity? What is inspiration? And then the way you had just said that you could kind of tell. I gave the example that as writers, we're kind of instructed to copy other stuff. Now, we don't publish it. In this case, they did, to learn.
Right, and I do that with graphics as well.
Yeah. And you actually, in your example, though, the idea, you already mentioned, was the way a slot machine. So...
But a slot machine isn't a name.
No, I know, but see what I'm saying? How the creative adventures that we have are messy. They are messy. They are inspired by at any moment, different things. The idea, in the writing world, there's only 5 stories. Everybody just tells them in different ways, and there's techniques like the hero's journey, and stuff like that. And painting or drawing, there's styles. And I was thinking in your case, if you're probably on your next travels and stuff, like how many pictures of sunset or sunrises, even from the same location, is there?
Yep.
And now on a single day, that's different. Like the day you take it is different. In your hikes, and you had mentioned also that people were at certain spots because of that look, but you wanted something. So is that it's kind of a crazy creative mess when you consider all the kind of the different elements of it.
Yeah, we all are just finding ideas off of our experiences and other things we see and other people we hear talk and all that stuff. Like, and that's where the truth really hits of your ideas are not original, and they never will be. They're like, you cannot physically create a thought from scratch that does not exist before you thought of it.
That isn't somehow connected.
Yeah, it's
to
all
something
based on, your memories and your past experiences, all that stuff. So creativity is hard to really quantify that, because if we define it as an expression of ourselves, we think of ourselves as, we're just us and nobody else can be us. And that's very true, but at the same time, we can cross paths with other creators. And I just don't know, obviously with writing, to graphics to an extent, you can put it in the, like, whatever plagiarism thing that you do and see the percentage, whatever that used from other sites. Like, you can carbon copy something. But if it's just simply the idea or the technique, I don't think you can really quantify a line. I think it's just kind of, I don't know. It's as gray as it gets.
It does. And I was thinking of other things, and I didn't have time to look it up. Like, there in music, and I don't remember if it's a company or a person, was trying to copyright, in a sense, all the musical chords and put them in public domain. So therefore, nobody could, because there's been some big cases, Ed Sheeran, and of plagiarize, and that's my music, or even story. I mean, we see this a lot of times play, but it was just interesting that they're like, okay, I'm gonna do, somehow get it, and I'm just then put it in the public domain. So therefore, that's another interesting question. Is what is or should kind of be public domain, and without worry, creatives can express themselves, learn, because I think that's part of, like in your example too, and part of it's like you're trying to learn so that you can create your own artistic expression. And first off, plagiarism is wrong when you just carbon copy other people's stuff and try to sell it, and there's no artistic integrity there. That's what is that. But I think real creatives don't do that. They do, though, get inspired and learn and stuff. So is there stuff that we should just have?
So I
public
think,
domain wise?
I think there's a lot of that in kind of MySpace, I guess, where like typefaces and assets and all that stuff, like the stuff that's free for commercial use, obviously. That stuff is just like, it's out there. Anybody can use it however they want, the same way as somebody else, the opposite way, whatever. There's a lot of tricky stuff in music, and that's also because there's a lot of money tied up in all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I almost think if you were to do that sort of thing, then the line you have to draw is almost all the way to the point of, unless you take their file or their piece of paper or their, like, that is their IP, and like that is theirs. They created it, they own it. If you just took a screenshot of somebody's piece of work on the internet and posted it as yours, yeah, that's over the line. Everything else kind of under the sun that you actually spend time creating, I think you can make an argument for. And it is funny because I have seen a lot of the like, oh, listen to this song from 1992 and then listen to this song from 2021. It's like the exact same beat, same lyrics for like 2 lines, whatever. But every other part of the song is different. Yeah. And so like, I think if we're just kind of throw it, like, just be like, you know what, everything's just kind of out there anyway. There's no real way to combat it. Unless you deliberately take their stuff and say it's your stuff, like their actual concrete work, then I think anything's kind of free game.
Okay. And I have a book for the case for plagiarism. Like, it's a book that, and it's within the creative and like, it's not taking people's stuff. And the keyword a little bit in regards to money, is an important part. And direct steal, and then the book isn't about that. It is in that case that, how many times has somebody written in a song "Life is a Highway," or in a poem, or thought, or in a book, or that metaphor is not copyrighted. Now, and you say it, you think of that song, and in fact, if I write it in a poem, people are probably going to still connect. But it's just an expressive way to talk about the way you see life. Now there's other similes, there's other metaphors, there's other things that you could use. I don't know. It's an interesting aspect of the creative process. And then, because within your example, so when is it a have to that you should give credit? Because our golden shovel, we give credit. It's not a gold. Technically, it's not even a golden shovel if you don't do that. Like, that's part of the form. It should always come right, and it also should always come right after the title. Now, one small little part within the creative before you answer that is that the golden shovel, you may kind of address topic-wise the same work, or just create something totally different. But yet, when you read the end words on your poem, you get that quote or that segment from there. So creatively, you can do whatever you want to in your own construct. But we do give credit. So when is it the have to? You have to give credit here when you are then publishing out your finished creative.
So can't really answer that for other parts of creativity, but I'll answer it for my realm. So one, I think, is if you pay for something, I think credit is nil.
Okay. Yep.
To an extent, like it's kind of the publisher's choice there.
Or on Canva, because even Canva, like, there's fonts.
Yeah.
That if you pay for it, okay, you're free to use it as...
Like my music licensing platform, I don't feel the need at all to credit the artist. They put it on that platform to use for me and all that stuff. Yep. So I don't even feel the need to credit Epidemic Sound. In the free space, or just kind of the inspiration space, I think as soon as so say I wanted to make a graphic and I wanted to have mountains in it, and I found somebody else's photo and maybe I even cut out the mountain, so it's not even their full photo or whatever. I just cut out the mountain part of it and used it as a part in my graphic, which I guess contradicts the music stanza thing that I just said. I would consider that, okay, you got to dish out some credit. Hey, this photo was taken by this person. Like when people use my photos for their graphics or something like that, and I see it and I'm like, I didn't get a DM to ask to use this photo. I didn't get, where's credit here? Yeah. That's where I feel like you need to dish out some props. Like that helped directly enhance my work, enhanced yours in the most direct way because you actually used part of my work. And so, like, writing is hard because depending on, like, for example, like a haiku or something, you can write the exact same haiku and be like, I didn't copy that from you.
No, could, because the haiku is very small.
Yeah.
And if you're writing about the sunrise or whatever.
Right. Whereas photography and graphics,
so many ways you could probably do that.
Yeah. Whereas like photography, you can most of the time very clearly tell, I took that photo, or I did that video, whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's where I would lay it. That's happened to me quite a bit more early on. But when you directly use someone else's work, like take a piece of it and insert it into your work and claim it's 100% your work, it's not.
Yeah.
And so that's where I feel the need. Like, I didn't feel the need to do it just using that technique. Or, I found inspiration for the double exposure thing the next day from an artist. I didn't feel the need to credit them for inspiring me for that idea because I didn't use any of their work. I just used a technique that they probably didn't even create anyway. So like as soon as you take apart directly from other people's work, that's where I feel to some extent you got to give some credit, whether it's money, whether it's shouting them out on Twitter, that sort of thing.
Okay, I agree. I mean, once it is used in whatever physical way, either on the page, on the canvas, on in the graphic design,
it is a lot harder in the writing, music, that space.
It is. I mean, it's an interest when you really and you get into other aspects of creativity of things, technique. That was one of the deeper. Is like, is there a certain way that you do things, in our day and age? And part of it is our day and age of everybody like suing everybody for stuff, trying to copyright this or patent this, and it just like sometimes feels like you don't even want to be creative or step out because somebody could come back on you and say, no, that was mine, or you need to pay, but there's I think a level of respect and honor and in the creative world that you should give credit when it's due, and I use Pixabay. And I try to at least link, but technically, I don't even have to do that unless there's sometimes they are state that. But I try like in my blogs or stuff to do that just because but that site this is meant, this is supposedly free. And I have actually, they're not the best photos on there, but I've got a small little collection and people have used it on my Flickr. I have some of them for Creative Commons and whatever, and they're free. And I've actually have seen some of my photos used in news articles and stuff like that. It's, and it does, and they reference and link, yeah.
I think you have a feeling when you're maybe crossing your mental line.
I think you do, but yet money is one of the, I think probably the biggest factors of stuff that
money and I'd say pride. You don't want to say, oh, this isn't really my idea. You want to be like, yeah, I'm the creative genius that came up with this. And so just stepping back and saying, listen, all of us learn ideas from other people. No one is thinking of things that have never been thought of before. Just you can trace stuff back somehow. Like in that Jamie Windsor video, I'll probably link it since I mentioned it so much. They talk about how this one piece of work was tied back, I think it was music, all the way to like Beethoven's age or whatever. Like he was not even born in that lifetime and never heard that song, but someone else thought of it 300 years before him. So your ideas are not original.
Well, yeah.
Okay, we got 1 minute.
Yeah.
So just kind of put that pride away and just...
But yeah, we're just inspired by life, and we're all consuming art and stuff like that, and the muse hits, and your brain puts, as you meant, it all together and says, hey,
Yep. Yeah, so season finale, season 6, episode 10. Thank you guys for sticking around for this journey now. We'll be back with episode 7 in a couple weeks, and we're on all the platforms. Season 7, sorry. Spotify, YouTube, all the places. You can watch video on Spotify, video on YouTube, and audio anywhere you get your podcast. So thanks as always for watching, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.